All right, the Hangout on air is live. This is Sound Booth Theater Live. Thank you guys for coming. And somebody's watching YouTube right now. Out of the two of you, sounds like maybe.
It's not I.
No, I'm just in the Hangouts.
Okay, so one of you then needs a pair of headphones because
That's me.
the echo. Okay. We are here with two authors who both of them have requests today. We have with us first Mr. June Prince, author of Freehaven Online. Currently, there are 2 books in the series available. Is that correct?
2 books available, one on pre-order.
One on pre-order. Okay, and let me go ahead and do a screen share for us. Okay. So this is a really cool cover, by the way. I like this.
Thank you.
Lady Thunderlord Into Hades is book 2 of Freehaven Online. And as you can see here, we did when did we do book 1? You requested
a few weeks ago, like about a month ago, month and a half, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it was the one last time or the one before that, but we did the first book in the series recently.
Yes.
And here's the 3rd book in the series on pre-order. Also has a cool picture, a cool cover. It's very Christmassy.
Yeah, it is. It's a Christmas book.
Nice.
Wanted to get in the seasonal events.
It's a good idea. There's not enough of that. There's not enough. I mean, like, you think about The Simpsons and South Park, like, most of the time, their holiday specials are the best. Like, do you remember, like, oh man, The Simpsons Halloween stuff is fucking amazing. Almost always.
South Park, Mr. Hanky. Howdy-ho!
Yes, Mr. Hanky. Yeah, I mean, that's the legendary stuff. So, guys, we need to start doing more festive LitRPG. And June Prince is on the crest of the wave for this movement. So, yeah, we'll be doing Freehaven Online Book 2 today. Also, we have Mr. Justin Lincoln here. Let me unscreen share. Let me unscreen share. And Mr. Justin Lincoln, please say hi. You there?
I see him. I don't hear him.
Can you not hear us? Nope. His shit's broke. Okay, we'll introduce his stuff in a second, but we will also discuss the fact that I think this will be our last request for today. Sicora Online, which was requested all the way back in February. Finally, it had an opportunity to get into the actual show. So this is Sicora Online, Book 1, The Sorting. By S.W. Clarke. Let's see if there's any sequels. Looks like there's a prequel. Book 0 of the same series. So yeah, this will be our ending request for the day. Justin Lincoln, are you able to hear us now? I feel like I'm at a seance. Justin Lincoln, please hear our words. Give us a sign that you are here in the room with us. Is that lacking it? That doesn't sound. It doesn't seem like.
That's not our sign.
No, it's not our sign. He will be back though. In like.
I'm back. Are you guys talking to me?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
To you.
I just got my headphones working. What did I miss?
Oh, nothing. I was just trying to introduce you. So. Justin Lincoln.
Perfect. Justin Lincoln, author of Legends of the Great Savannah. We have Milton's today. It's great. I'm excited. Excited to be here.
Well, thank you for coming. Now, what was I can look up some of your stuff. Is your stuff published on Kindle yet?
Legends of the Great Savannah is. Milton is not.
Legends?
Milton is kind of my work in progress that's distracting me from my paying work.
Okay. Legends of the Great Savannah. Let me see. How do you spell Savannah?
Savanna.
Oh, no H. Okay, gotcha.
Link if you didn't get it.
Oh, this one. Cool. Martyrs. Okay. I remember this one. All right, let me screen share for you guys. No. Okay, here. All right. So Martyrs, Legends of the Great Savannah. And these are lion people, is that right?
They're martyrs. Yeah, they kind of the main character thought they looked like lions in the beginning when he first met them. He saw a cub. This is what they look like full grown. So they're kind of modeled off of the Tauren from World of Warcraft.
Okay.
But I removed the horns.
Cool. All right. So I remember Ramon giving this a good review. So that's one thing that always sticks in my head is when Ramon gives something a good review.
Right.
To
Yeah.
Keep an eye on things from them. Okay, so is this the only book in the series that's available at the moment?
At the moment, yes. I'm finishing up number 2, which is Golems. That should be out in about 4 months.
Excellent. But today, what has been requested is Milton, which is on your Royal Road right now.
Right.
And by the way, all of our requests are always in the description below the video. So you can check out there. We have the 2 Kindle links to the 2 books that have already been published through Kindle. And then we have the link to the Royal Road for Milton here. And yeah, so this will be our second request for today. I'm excited to get to that, but let's go ahead and jump back on to our first one for today, which is Freehaven Online Book 2, not Winter Dungeon Land. That's the second one.
That's the third one.
Yeah. Lady Thunderlord into Hades is our first request for today. Let's see who else here. Alan Kaiser's here. Charlotte Pierce, Jeff Hollingsworth, Ayano. What's up, guys? I'm so glad you made it. All right, now we will get started. All right, so can you tell us a bit, can you go through one more time what your Freehaven Online is, just for people who didn't watch last time?
Sure. So Freehaven Online is essentially a trapped in a game book. And in book 1, we're introduced to the game world and the events that led to everybody getting stuck in the game. And at the end of book 1, someone, well, it's not a spoiler because it's in the description of the book 2. One of the guild members dies when she tries to digitize. But then at the beginning of book 2, we realize that there's a chance that she might not be gone, and that she may be awaiting the guild in a new expansion. So they are going to rescue her and hopefully bring her back to the land of the living. Only she's in Hades, which is the underworld, the land of the dead, where about 99% of the inhabitants are ghosts.
Okay. Wow. That's heavy, man.
Yeah, it's a little bit heavier than the first book.
All right. Well, let's get into it then.
But it has some whimsy, so it's not all heavy.
They're like Casper ghosts. They're not like Whoopi Goldberg and Patrick Swayze.
It's an afterlife.
Okay.
So yeah, there's 2 scenes that are 2 short scenes there. One of them is a quest turn-in, and then the other one is before they're actually in Hades, and they have to cross a pit of undead in order to get to the gate.
Okay. All right. So yeah, let's. I'm gonna go ahead and start reading your directions here. The setting and character notes.
Let me open up that file so I can see.
All right. And if there's any bits here that you don't want me to read, since these are notes to me as direction, if there's any bits that you don't want me to read out loud because they're spoilery, let me know.
I'm okay. Do whatever you want.
Okay. Setting: Ash March. A village in Hades where nearly everyone is a ghost. Mortals who die in Hades leave corpses where they fall and step out of them as new ghosts, assuming they don't go to hell. Newly dead must register with the Hades Bureau of Immigration. Yes. I love bureaucracy in completely inappropriate contexts. Okay, characters are riding on elemental-powered motorcycles. Okay, I'm like so on board already. Setup. Quest turn in. Marcy, a recently dead ghost, sent the party of adventurers to find her missing husband, a mortal half-elf who snuck into the underworld. They rescued him from a nest of vampires that was keeping people alive and on tap as a food source, since ghosts have no blood for vampires to feed on. Okay. Character notes. We have Zan. Zan?
Yes.
An NPC. He's alive. He's not a ghost. Half-elf, rescued from vampire-infested dungeon. Has been despondent since the rescue, possibly suffering from PTSD. An NPC with PTSD. Okay. Has been complaining about hunger. Maybe he's a vampire now. Okay. Marcy. NPC. Ghost. Worried wife of Zan. Offering a reward to anyone who can find her husband or deliver news of his fate, if he perished in Hades. Okay, so NPCs, I don't remember how we resolved this last time, but did you want them to have a particular accent for their region?
For these ones, anything goes.
Anything goes.
And yes.
Okay, Frobod. I'm seeing like a dude, like a bodybuilder with an afro right now. Okay. Human. Death Knight. Nice. Okay. Obsessed with finding a way out of Freehaven Online. Kinda has a thing for Mel, the protagonist, though they haven't formalized a relationship. Okay, so because he's a Death Knight, I'm also thinking like he's a dark anti-hero possibly character. Is that...
Well, that's like his in-game character, but as like we interact with him mostly as like the guy behind the character, and he's like a normal guy, pretty cool guy, family man.
With a Frobod. Okay. Melpomene. PC. Melpomene. Gotcha. Oh man, you know how many times I heard the name Hermione while I was reading
Hermione.
PC, half-elf, primary protagonist, leader of the guild and adventuring party. She's competent, cares about her crew, and has a level head. And is she from the first book as well?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's right. She the one with the nice butt on the cover?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right, so here goes. I'm gonna have some coffee and get started. Oh, that's right. I have to narrate as nice butt. Okay.
You're doing female again.
Yeah, I'll try to make sure I sound like my butt is very nice.
You did a good job last time.
Okay.
I can see your butt in your voice.
All right.
That sounds very firm to me.
All right. It feels like Frobod and I haven't been alone in ages as we ride to Marcy's house, and I ask, "How are you holding up?" Zan shifts his weight on the back of my bike to remind me that we're not exactly alone. He's so quiet, hanging on like a dead weight that it's easy to forget him. Frobod says, "I'm holding. Actually, I'm pretty excited about the Zorentu thing." They're on a motorcycle, so they should be kind of yelling a little bit, right? They want to hear each other.
They're using party chat so they can talk at normal volume.
Gotcha. That's easy. This could be the break we've been looking for. I shrug. A part of me feels like the way out of Freehaven isn't coming from Dragonswood, but I keep it to myself. I have no concrete reason for believing it. It's just intuition. We'll find the way sooner or later. Stay strong. Stay strong. He holds out his gauntleted fist for a fist bump, and I tap it with my own gloved hand. We're approaching Marcy's cottage when I hear Zan groan. I turn my head to address him in profile and say, "You okay back there, dude?" He groans again. And he is a half-elf. Okay. "So hungry." "They forget to feed you?" I say. "You can have some of my rations when we get to your wife." The only reply is a moan from the man that reverberates through my back. Frobod eyes him suspiciously. We roll to a stop in front of Marcy's cottage, with the wood trim and adorable circular windows. I cut the engine. I'm... Zan speaks in a punished voice. Sorry. Huh? That's all I can say, before a sharp pain sticks into my neck. I gasp. Ah! But that's all. But the short moment it takes me to produce that sound is all it takes for the pain to be replaced by pleasure. I can't move my limbs, and I don't care as waves of heat and floaty tingling euphoria pulse through me, starting at my neck and stirring through my entire body. I moan a sound far too sexual for my liking, and yet I also don't care like laughing gas at the dentist. It's so good. I'm melting. I feel a trickle of blood roll down my neck when suddenly there's a powerful crash. I'm in the dirt, and my big red fire chopper's on its side on the ground beside me. The ether bike's on the ground too. Where's Zan? I touch my neck, and am shocked to find my fingers covered in hot red blood. The wound hurts when I touch it. It stings. The pleasure a fading dream. I'm just getting my bearings when I realize Frobod's charging Zan with his greatsword as the man scuttles backward in the dirt. I'm sorry! The half-elf cries, mouth smeared with blood and bloody tears tracking down his face. Somehow he manages to evade Frobod's downward strike. The greatsword smashes into the dirt. Frobod bellows, "We rescued you!" He swings again, potent and chaotic, another blow that misses the mark. "We risked ourselves to bring you back to your wife, and this is how you repay us?" Zan raises his hands defensively, as if to fend off a blow. Much good may it do him should Frobod connect. He whines, a pitiful sound. "I was just so hungry." "I don't care," Frobod roars. "You don't attack her!" "Stop!" I shout. "It's not his fault. I didn't realize he'd been changed. It takes a few days for the transformation to complete." Frobod's still a thunderhead, but at least he's not swinging. I hurry to my feet and extend a hand to help Zan up. I say, "Jeez, man, it's not like I was really gonna die. You're gonna risk screwing up our quest for this?" Frobod barks, "You don't know that." Zan takes my hand and unsteadily hobbles to his feet. Thankfully, he makes no effort to gnaw on my wrist. I say, "So what? I get drained dry. You pick up my corpse and haul me back to Param and Leroy." Sheesh. We've got three rezzers. If you kill him in front of his wife's house, there's no telling what would happen. You want to miss the train? Frobod hrumps. "I didn't like the sounds you were making." "Dude, free vamp bites inflict ecstasy," I say. "It's how they feed without their victims fighting. Some people even get addicted to it." Frobod says, "Yeah, I know," sounding petulant. "I just didn't want you to respawn outside of Hades." I give him a sarcastic smile and say, "I'm sure that's all it was." I look back to the cottage and find Marcy standing in the doorway, horror-stricken. Her face is bone white, and her mouth hangs agape. I lead Zan. He shuffles like a prisoner on his way to death row. He's crying blood as my blood stains my neck and the He's crying blood as my blood stains my neck and the lower half of his face. Marcy says, "What happened to you?" Zan chokes up. "Vampires. They got me. They changed me. I need blood to survive." Marcy takes a deep breath, holding holding something back so she can be the strong one in the relationship. She says, "Okay." She pauses. "Then you can take mine. I know you won't kill me." "I can't," Zan wails. "And why's that?" Marcy says. "Because you don't have any. You're dead." Marcy says, "Oh." Then continues in a quiet mutter. "So new to this. Near forgot about that." Frobod and I exchange looks as he says, "What do you want to do?" Marcy says, "It's simple then. You've got to go back. Live your life, and I'll be waiting for you. Zan sobs. I'm immortal. Marcy scoffs. Vampires can be killed. No use denying it. Frobod gives voice to what Zan's thinking. Vampire souls go to Tartarus. Zan nods. Oh no, Frobod says this. Vampire souls go to Tartarus. Tartarus. Zan nods. Nope. Zan nods, confirming the assumption. I'll go to hell. I say, clearing my throat. Not necessarily. It hasn't been more than a week since he changed you, right? Zan wordlessly shakes his head no. So the transformation isn't complete. There's a chance that if you died today, you'd become a ghost like any other. You haven't killed anyone, have you? Except in self-defense? He shakes his head no. Soundless, his eyes are red and wet with bloody tears. I look to Frobod. He looks down at his VT and says, The quest hasn't updated. How do you even know that? I say, I've played a bunch of vampires. They are more manageable in my opinion than wares. They are more manageable in my opinion than wares. The transformation from human, if you started the game that way, takes a week. In that time, you gradually take on more of their powers and weaknesses. Okay, one of you's got something happening in the background that's kind of noisy, so if you can just mute while you're not talking, that would be helpful. Cool, thank you guys. Shaking, Zan says, You have to kill me. Marcy says, The hell you will! And send you to Tartarus? You want to be damned? Zan says, You heard what they said. It's the only way we can be together. Marcy says, I won't have it. Not if there's even a chance you're damning yourself in the process. Quest update. Missing Hunter. In death we are parted. Zan asks you to kill him, yet Marcy rejects this proposition. There's no guarantee Zan will return as a ghost if you strike the fatal blow, and yet it may be the only way to reunite the lovers. There are 2 paths you may follow to complete this quest. Objective, Zan. Decapitate Zan. 0 out of 1. Objective, Marcy. Escort Zan back to Haven. 0 out of 1. Frobod grips his greatsword and says, Let's make this quick. Marcy shrieks, No! But it's too late. Zan bows his head, and Frobod comes in with a 2-handed swing without another word of discussion. The head goes flying as Marcy wails and beats Frobod's armor with her tight fist. I'm more interested in what happens to Zan's body. While a large percentage of his flesh burns into ash, unlike Dorian, the half-elf vampire leaves behind a blackened skeleton with charred hunks of meat clinging to its bones. Marcy continually beats Frobod's chest. His face is stony and impassive. The widow's sobs are painful. I feel a part of me dying. Quest update. Missing Hunter. In death we are parted. Zan has died. Escort him to the town hall and register him as a citizen of Ash March. Objective, register Zan as a citizen of Ash March. 0 out of 1. As soon as the prompt appears, a ghostly body takes shape from within the bones, seeping out of them like an ethereal jelly and condensing into a human, half-elf-shaped form. I squat beside the bones and extend my hand, which the gelatin figure grasps. I stand and pull the new ghost up, out of its corpse. As he rises, Zan becomes more solid, taking on more color. When he steps away from his corpse, he's as solid as either Frobod or me. He gasps, and then laughs, an incredulous sound that's shocked to be alive. Marcy, he says, his voice tinged with amazement. I'm here! I didn't go to Tartarus! Wow, that was really nasal and weird. I didn't go to Tartarus! He touches her shoulder. She turns and delivers a full-fisted punch to Zan's nose, shouting, You fool! I can tell it hurt from the incredible snapping sound, but Zan just laughs and scoops his wife into his arms. They spin together in a tight embrace in front of the little cottage as Marcy's red skirt catches the air. Frobod clears his throat. We should get you registered so you don't get deported for being an illegal immigrant or some nonsense. Part of me wants to smack Frobod for ruining their moment, but it's already broken, so I say, "You think they'd do that?" Frobod says, "They love their forms. Why register if not to have consequences for not registering?" Marcy shoves her man towards us. He stumbles forward. She says, "Go, get yourself registered. I'll inform the Adventurers Guild that you've completed my task to satisfaction." Zan, looking sheepish now that he's survived his ordeal, says, "Thank you. I was nearly lost." And that's it. Cool. So that was a really heartfelt and interesting scene. I liked it. "Kill me. I want to be with my wife." Wife's like, "No. Are you crazy?" It worked out. It worked out in the end. Neck romancing? Someone says in the chat. Alan says secretly Jeff is thick as fuck though. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Okay, so yeah. June, thank you so much for requesting this one. I'm sure everyone else enjoyed it. Maybe more than I did. Probably. I don't know. I liked it a lot. But yeah, this is available. Let's see, when did it release? September 21st. So it's been available for a few weeks now. If you haven't picked it up, if you haven't read the first book, go check them out on Amazon. The links are in the description below. And June, thanks again for requesting. Oh, mute. You're muted. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. So yeah, that's that request. June, I'm gonna kick you off the stream now so that
Okay.
we're not too overloaded, and we're moving on to Justin's request. So thanks again.
Thanks, June.
Eject. It's kind of violent. I'm ejecting him from the hangout. So put on your helmet. Make sure your parachute's in order.
Buckling in.
All right. So Justin.
All right.
Tell us about Milton.
All right. So Milton it actually started on Reddit. It was just a write your own LitRPG thing we did on Reddit. And then it just kind of ran away from me from there. And I was thinking about it as I was writing other projects. And I moved it onto Royal Road and away from Reddit. And it's basically a story about a neckbeard, a classic neckbeard. He's a big dude. He's nerdy. He practices with a katana a lot, as you'll see, and something happens, something changes, and he starts to see notifications in his real world. So this is a kind of Earth gets a game system, and the rest we'll see from there. He's kind of dealing with. He's kind of sheltered because he plays so many video games. So it's kind of a coming of age story, but it starts off, I think, hilarious. It's going to be satire-y in the beginning, and then his character builds and it gets a little deeper from a classic neckbeard, and then the story kind of picks up from there.
Cool. Okay, so a little bit more social commentary into the world of video gamers in general,
Right,
and the way they see the world. So I like that idea. I think there's not enough of that, honestly, in the general.
Yeah, you'd think lit RPG as a genre will kind of explore it more because we're so familiar with it, right?
Yeah, but it's odd because it's such a by nature meta genre, but there seems to be some lack of self-awareness in a lot of it. Like they're
I agree.
just talking about their fantasy, and they're able to use this convenient vehicle, this convenient genre
Right.
that speaks to them and their own culture. And so they just use it and they just tell their story. and they're not really talking about video games. They're talking
Right.
about themselves and their own.
It's wish fulfillment for them, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, more stuff that's like on, taking a step back from everything and looking in. I like that when it comes to, especially when it comes to any kind of literature. I think that exploring the human condition is more the job of an author than any other thing that you're really supposed to do.
I agree. And you'll definitely see some of that in Milton. Probably not in the skit that you're reading because you're just getting the beginning, but you'll definitely see some of that in Milton.
Okay, cool. So let's work out how many characters are in this one.
So you have Milton, and then his dog is introduced next. So obviously you're not going to do anything for the dog. And then maybe Nico and Lorelei. Nico's a Spanish middle-aged gangster. And Lorelei is a college-aged college student.
Okay. So she's just a basic bitch.
She starts off that way, at least. Yeah.
Okay. And Milton, you said he's a big guy, as in fat guy. Do we want him to sound a little bit jowly at all or anything?
Yeah, I would say jowly. He's a big dude. He's husky.
Let's give him some jowls.
All right.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. Okay.
Chapter 1. Hearing the sound of smashing... Oh, okay, this is first person, okay. Hearing the sound of smashing glass, I try to rush through the door, jamming the key into the lock. Instead, I fumbled, scratching the outside of the lock with the small copper key before I finally succeeded. The door opens into the familiar beige apartment, though the floating, pixelated, rainbow-colored letters in front of me were definitely a new addition. Level 1. Ambush at Grandma's house. Round begins in 7 seconds. Wait, is that a countdown? Round begins in 6 seconds. Yes, it is. 5 seconds. A mild sense of terror crept over me. Please equip a weapon from your inventory if you wish to survive. What? 3 seconds. Suddenly, I noticed the strap of my bag begin to glow. 2. I dropped the bag down off my shoulder. 1. I ripped the zip open. The inside of my bag was pitch black and apparently bottomless, far bigger than it should have been. In desperation, I thrusted my arm into the bag looking for anything I could use to help me stay alive. Fight! Shit. I knew I should have just thrown this thing away, I thought, as I pulled out the popsicle stick from hours before. My chivalrous sense to not litter the earth here to bite me in the ass once again. Fucking nice guys always finish last. I reached deeper into my bag, but my hands merely groped around, never touching the inner edges of the bag. It wasn't the sense that my hands were unwittingly creeping into another dimension that spurred me into action, though. It was the screams. I burst through the door with a ferocious scream of my own. Hey, Grandma! I'm here to save you! Don't worry! At least that was what I wish I would have said. I have been waiting for some weird shit like this to happen to me for ages. In fact, I have trained for it. All those nights of chopping up watermelons and water bottles with my katana didn't prepare me for my first real enemy, though. Grandma's fucking humidifier. Agility check failed. You have fallen. Grandma, just were the words that actually came out of my mouth. Okay, first of all, I have to just express this right now before it leaves my head. I'm reminded of Lightsaber Kid. Or Star Wars Kid, what do they call him?
It was I know who you're talking about, but yes. That was him.
Okay, good.
He's definitely part of who inspired this guy.
Okay.
Great jowls, by the way.
Thank you. I pulled my heavy body to my feet with a grunt. Come on, man. Time to show all those people what you have been training for, I thought. If only I knew at the time that I was training for the completely wrong thing. Another scream echoed through my grandma's house, causing my pale skin to flush with goosebumps. I ran up the stairs one by one. My arms flailed about, grasping for anything that would help me defeat the stairs faster. One of my hands knocked a picture of me off the wall. I could tell from its position that it was the same picture I pleaded with my grandma for years to throw away. I was pimple-faced back then when the picture was taken, without barely a hint of facial hair. She thought it was cute, though, and vehemently refused my pleas. It tumbled to the bottom of the stairs, along with my popsicle stick, and shattered into pieces. Great, I thought. If the world is going to shit and I am to be its hero, I better get rid of any evidence of my embarrassing past. I wear fedoras now, for Christ's sake. I am a changed man. A hero. An eternity later, my second enemy was defeated. I stood on top of the stairs triumphantly, before keeling over in exhaustion. Endurance check failed. You are exhausted. Grandma screamed again, this time only 2 doors down the hallway. I'm coming, I said between wheezes. Grandma! Kick it in the balls! Police have always tried to tell me that kicking people in the balls was unethical, but I knew better. They would go on and on about how I should fight fair, but really, I was only using the advantage I had. They always thought they could pick on people like me, intellectuals, and then shame us when we fought back. Not on my watch. I knew their weakness. It was always a swift kick in the balls. It was all of their weaknesses, and I figured ambushers must have been like bullies. They probably shared the same weaknesses after all. Only bullies would attack a defenseless woman at night. I captured my breath and galloped down the hallway. Grandma's light was on, illuminating the room she was in. I turned the corner like a Special Forces member clearing a house and yelled to deter the ambusher. My yell fell upon the deaf ears of an empty room. I dropped my trained attack hands and slowly crept into Grandma's room. I swear, her screams were definitely coming from this room, I thought. I was never the most physically gifted, but what I lacked in strength I made up for with my superior senses. I could hear a police siren for more blocks away than anyone I ever knew. So there was no way I was wrong about Grandma being in the room. Make fun of me if you want, but even to this day, my senses are as sharp as a fiddle, and I was right about Grandma being in that room. I bent over to check underneath the bed. In one smooth motion, I pulled the bedsheet and peeked under. The only problem was, my stomach got in the way and I couldn't lower my head down far enough to actually see under the bed. I ended up having to drop down onto all fours, but the result was the same. Grandma, nor the ambusher, was hiding under the bed. Neither Grandma. Okay. That only leaves the closet, I thought in between mental grunts as I figured out the most efficient way to pull myself to my feet. I settled for the tried and true, one hand on your knee, the other hand grabbing anything that will support you method. Let me try that again. I settled for the tried and true, one hand on your knee, the other hand grabbing anything that will support you method. Like a ninja. I crept up to the closet. There we go. The floor barely creaked. I peered through the wooden slats of the door, and what I saw threatened to give me a heart attack. Is that you, Grandma? I whispered pitifully at the eyes staring back at me through the closet door. The eyes didn't answer, so I stood tall and stared defiantly back. It was a defense method that got me through most of my childhood and worked 30% of the time, every time. You have learned a new skill. Inspect. To my credit, I didn't miss a beat. I knew exactly what to do with such a skill. Grandma, level 89 human scrounger. Increase your inspect skill to see more information. A scrounger? What the hell is that? I thought as I pulled open the closet doors. Come on, Grandma, I know it's you. My words were cut off by a punch to the face. I reeled back, covering my nose. Ugh! Grandma attacks you. -5 hit points. Confused and panicked, I struggled to gain my bearings. I looked up from the floor and could dizzily make out my grandmother hopping all around the room like a meth addict that was also on cocaine. I turned over. Grandma hopped on the floor, her nightie spreading just enough as she squatted to cause me... Grandma hopped on the floor, her nightie spreading just enough as she squatted to cause me to reflexively turn away. The movement caused me to avoid many years of therapy and even some damage. Grandma attacks you, -4 hit points. You dodged a critical strike. Stop kicking me, please! And why are you so nimble? And what the fucker is going on here? All spilled from my mouth in a jumbled mess that probably sounded something like, Stop, you nimble fucker! Grandma did not stop, though. Instead, she hopped around the room, hung from the chandelier, and knocked over almost all of her various knickknacks, which was an impressive feat all by itself, all while managing to find time to kick me in between. That's it, I said, determined to wrangle in my grandma and have a serious talk about putting her in a home. I pulled myself to all fours. She kicked me. I pulled a leg up and placed a foot on the floor. Another kick. I activated my one hand on your knee, the other hand grabbing anything that will support you ability. Grandma kicked me again and hopped back onto the bed, just as the other hand portion of my ability kicked in and pulled the blanket from underneath her feet. Grandma fell back and smacked her head on the corner of her nightstand. Congratulations, you have defeated Scrounger. Congratulations, you have reached level 2. The rainbow-colored flashing letters didn't make me feel any better about it, nor did the light that enveloped me after I leveled up. I held my grandma's frail body in my hands and wept like a little girl. Yes, real men do actually cry. Hiding your feelings is the thing that is actually gay, not crying. Oh my god. Oh boy. Face. Suddenly, a black mist poured from my grandma's mouth before dissipating into the stuffy night air. My grandma began to breathe again, but only for a moment.
Honey, I am sorry for kicking you.
Her lifetime of perfect politeness forced her to say.
My body was taken over by something bad.
My grandma looked me deep in the eyes then.
I need you to find the rest of them, and...
What? What do I need to do? Just tell me what I will do it! Just tell me and I will do it! I pleaded. I will do it for you!
Find them and do your sword thing on them.
Grandma said, seconds before she took her last breath. Quest received. Your grandma came into contact with the deadly Scroungers, and like many before her, didn't live to tell the tale. She did live long enough for one thing, though, to task you with bringing justice to her name and defending her honor. Quest type, chain. Current objective, find your katana. Okay. Oh, okay, so it's going to keep going into chapter 2. Chapter 2. Do your sword thing on them, I thought, reciting my grandma's last words for the 100th time. It wasn't like they were extremely profound. In fact, they spoke to my family's ignorance about who I was. No one really understood me. Still, though, her words Her words helped me keep my head screwed on straight as I buried her in the backyard. Proper burial. Rest in peace, Graham. You didn't understand me, but it doesn't matter. You loved me anyway, and I will never forget that, I told the mound of freshly disturbed dirt. I looked around the yard aimlessly. The moonlight reflected off the old slide I used to play on as a kid, reminding me of a time I would never get back. Rainbow-colored letters inconsiderately intruded into my vision once again. You have leveled up. Please choose an ability. I swiped them away just like I did all the other times they tried to ruin my grandma's funeral. Suddenly, the soft whine of a dog cut through the silence of the night. I had expected there to be sirens, screams, or literally any other sound that would signify the end of the world, but there wasn't any. It made me think I was going crazy, and in fact, I probably would have believed it if it wasn't for the fact that my cell phone no longer worked, nor my grandma's old-fashioned landline. I ran over to my grandma's golden retriever. He did his best to run to me as well, but his canine excitement was no match for his old age, and he only made it a few steps before I got to him. Pommy, my grandma's name for the dog, licked my face as I bent down to greet him. Hey, buddy, I'm glad to see you, I whispered to Pommy. The whole reason I came to my grandma's house was to check on the dog like I did every night, but you could see that didn't go as smoothly as it usually did. Pommy whined and flipped to his back so I could rub his stomach. The comfort of my lifelong companion died as the realization of my reality slowly settled back in. I looked around the yard once again, racking my brain for answers. Or a plan. I actually just wanted to curl up and go to sleep or play some WoW, but society would say that was just me trying to shut out the world. For once, I agreed. I needed to take action. I needed to find my katana. I placed a hand on my knee and leveraged my heavy body vertical. Come on, I paused, a childhood desire to rename the dog finally finding an opportunity to come to life. If we are going to brave this new world together, and I assume you want to come with me, the gray and golden retriever barked. Good. Then you will need a new name. I didn't need to think too hard to come up with one. Goldrin, I dubbed the dog. You are not too golden anymore. You're actually mostly gray. But that's fine. I hereby name you Goldrin. Congratulations, you have received a pet, Goldrin. I swiped the notification away with a roll of my eyes. I know he has been my pet my whole life. 20 years, in fact, I thought at the stupid notification. Okay, buddy, let's go find my katana, I said. Goldrin borked, and we set out to my grandma's basement. It was slow going. I would have liked to blame our slow progress on the ancient dog, but really it was because none of the lights were working other than my grandma's bedroom lamp for some reason. Also because I was fat. I grabbed a kitchen knife from the room in which someone would find those types of things and cautiously opened the basement door. Looking down into the darkness, I was overcome with the feeling to run away. It was like that irrational fear you got when coming up basement stairs that cause you to run up them at breakneck speeds, except I was already on top of the stairs, and the fear wasn't coming from some imaginary creatures in the basement that threatened to grab me if I didn't flee fast enough. It simply emanated from everywhere. Goldrin whined, awarding me the opportunity to call him a coward and thereby believe I wasn't one in the process. Whoever heard of an entire party of cowards anyway? There was always one coward in the group, but never two. I stepped down the stairwell, searching for each hidden step with an outstretched and trembling foot. When I reached the bottom, nothing happened, unless you counted the oppressive darkness that seemed to grow into infinity and beyond. I fought against the darkness, showed it who was the boss, and took a step. Apparently, the darkness wouldn't go down without a fight. My foot never landed on the ground and simply rolled forward, causing me to lose my balance. The rest of my body hit the floor, and then finally, my foot did as well. The kitchen knife clattered against the cement floor somewhere off in the distance. Agility check failed. You have fallen. Goldrin barked worriedly from the safety of the top of the stairs. I'm fine. I just tripped over something, I reassured him. I investigated the darkness with my feet, trying to find the object that tripped me. I found it and kicked it towards my crotch, moments before my abdominal muscles gave out. I tried to do a sit-up so I could grab the object, but it was a no-go. Strength check failed. I settled for awkwardly rolling to my stomach and getting up that way. The object I tripped over rolled away in the process, but I was able to grope around long enough to find it. It was oblong, about the size of a large penis, and had a switch on it. Oh, thank God, I said, as the fear that I forgot to get rid of my fleshlight before I moved out faded, and I realized I had a regular flashlight in my hands. I whispered a quick prayer, thanking the gods that my innocent grandmother never had to discover my personal belongings and pleading with them to make the flashlight work. I flicked the switch. My past was illuminated right before my eyes. The round table where I played my first D&D campaign. The Razor scooter from hell, which was responsible for 99% of the scars on my shins. An old dresser that likely contained all my styleless and mostly black garments from high school. It was all here. Grandma had kept it all. Another bork sounded from the top of the stairs, this time more curious than concerned. Yeah, it's still here, I answered Goldrin as the light from my regular flashlight gleamed over my katana that hung from the wall. I walked up to it confidently and grasped its cloth-wrapped handle. My sausage fingers fit perfectly into the grip, worn down from months of intense-ish practice. Get some water, too. Item received. Hero's Katana. Told you I was special. Nope. Told you I was special. Told you. I knew I was special. I whispered to my toxically masculine uncle, all the jocks at my school growing up, and really, just everyone I had ever met besides my grandma. I gave my katana a few practice swings. A sudden feeling of completeness washed over me. I was ready to take on the world. I was ready to cut up anything that stood in my way, especially watermelons. I was ready to bring justice to my grandmother's name and defend her honor. A bright rainbow splattering of words entered my vision, causing me to recoil and ruining my heroic pose. I sighed, but figured if anyone ever made a movie about me, they could just cut that part out. Quest updated. Your grandma came into contact with the deadly scroungers and, like many before her, didn't live to tell the tale. She did live long enough for one thing, though, to task you with bringing justice to her name and defending her honor. You have located and equipped your legendary katana. All fear the vengeance and wrath that is you. Quest type: Chain. Current objective, slay 5 scroungers. Easy, I told myself, hoping that the scroungers wouldn't take the form of my grandma and immediately regretting it. The scroungers sounded like they would be terrifying, so it would probably be better if they all looked like my gram anyway. Okay. So is he hallucinating that Goldrin is saying Bork? Or do you just want me to just bark?
You could bark.
Okay, just do a bark.
Yeah.
Goldrin yelled at me. What is it, boy? I asked with a raised eyebrow, my katana resting on one shoulder and my regular flashlight illuminating my face for heroic reasons. Goldrin borked again, spurring me into action. I ran up the stairs, ready to take on whatever was in front of me, and not the least bit afraid of anything behind me. Holy shit, I said without taking too many breaths. I just ran up that whole flight of stairs. And that's it. Okay, dude, I am fucking digging this story. I think it's hilarious. Let's see what people are saying in the chat.
Where can I find this chat?
You just open the actual. Here, let me see. I'm sending the link through our chat here. And when you click it, that's the YouTube video. Make sure to mute the YouTube video immediately.
Got it.
All right, so
yeah, that's Milton.
Yeah, so how far are you into it?
Not far. I think I'm in 12 chapters. I have it all plotted out, but I've been focusing on the sequel to Martyrs. But it's great. I think I have some things to work out between the serious moments and the funny moments. But that'll come through with editing. I mean, it's still a work in progress. Those will be worked out as it's edited. But yeah, I love it. It's a fun story.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it as well. So yeah, guys, if you want to keep checking out this novel as it develops, check out the Royal Road link that's in the description below. And looks like June is saying, did you see the second half of Freehaven? You didn't read it. Uh-oh. I think I cheated June.
Oh no.
We might have to have him back on. But yeah, Justin, thank you so much for requesting this. I think you requested it quite a while ago, and thankfully it finally got voted in. But
yep.
I don't know. I think that it might be worth requesting one more time, a different chapter or something.
I will definitely do that.
All right, cool.
Thanks, yeah, man.
Drop it on there on that poll. Tell Danny about it, and yeah, we'll have that on as another option.
Right.
Poll. But yeah, thanks so much, and I'm gonna boot you off and maybe get June back on here.
All right, thank you. I'll see you guys
later, Justin.
Bye.
All right, so June, if you still have the link, come on back. Let me see. It seemed like it seemed like I went long enough, but maybe not. 1 of 10, 3 of 10. Yes, you're right. Okay, yeah, there's a second. Derpy derp. My goatee is growing back in, sort of. Well, pretty much is. I've been keeping it the same length as everything else, though. I'm trying to do the beard thing. It's pretty patchy, though, and it's been a month. So maybe I just am not a beard guy. I've been, sort of on and off again. The verdict for that. Been trying, The thing is, it really looks terrible when the goatee is full and it's like trying to catch up. It says you're not allowed to join. Maybe it's because I booted you. Hold on. Maybe it's because I ejected your ass. Let's see here. I'm gonna send you another link. The same one. Oh no. Got blocked from the session. Okay, let's see if I can. Can you private message me your email address through Facebook? And I'll invite you that way. All right, I am sending it to the first email address that you sent me. From now on, I will not boot people unless I ask them to leave and they don't. Because I've done that before. I've been like, so yeah, we're done. Thank you. And they're like, cool. And they just stick around. I'm like, okay, we gotta go. But I try not to make it awkward so that I'm just like, eject. Bye. But I didn't realize it was such a what do you call it? I didn't realize it was a punitive ejection. There he is. He back. Hey, June, sorry about that.
I'm here.
He's back. All right, so we're gonna go back to. I guess I only did the first 1,500 words. There's another whole scene here, so we're gonna go back to Freehaven Online, Book 2, Lady Thunderlord Interviews, and keep going with it. Okay, so back to the. Maybe I should combine the narration of your book with the narration of Milton and make a jowly woman narration with a nice ass. Like, oh, please.
That's the stuff that nightmares are made of.
Please turn around, miss, while you talk to me. Okay.
This time you get to do some accents. I put them in the notes for you.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, setting. The party is standing on a ledge overlooking a pit of hundreds of zombies that they have to cross in order to get to the gate of Hades. Character notes. Sajina or Sajina?
Sajana.
Sajina, okay, neither. Male, Indian accent. Gargoyle, bard. Okay. New to adventuring. Has been regarded by the guys in the party as kind of useless until now. Right, because he's a bard. Okay, Taco. Taco?
Yes.
Male, smartass. Got it. Leroy, male, pro gamer, tank DPS, confident. Of course he's confident. He's Leroy. Parem? Parem?
Param.
Female.
Param.
Heavy New Jersey accent. Okay. I'll do my best with that.
Okay.
Does she also sound like a goblin? Or does she just sound like a player?
Just the New Jersey accent is fine because goblins in my world sound like they're from New Jersey.
Okay. So it is a goblin sounding character. And if you turn off the camera, we'll just have your blue person instead of a black screen.
Oh.
That'll be a little bit easier. Unless you want to switch. There we go.
Forgot about that.
Okay. All right, back to Freehaven Online Book 2, Lady Thunderlord in Hades. Sajana, Taco, Leroy, Param. Sajana says,
I've got something. They're all undead, right?
Looks like it, Leroy says. Sajana asks,
Can any of you play an instrument?
I raise my hand. Played a musician in Free World, but didn't get any magic. Sajana says,
That won't matter as long as I'm casting the spell.
I'm really bad at Indian accent, if you guys can't tell.
Each additional player increases the area of effect.
Taco says, and Taco is what? Male smartass. I had a recorder in 4th grade. Never found the brown note. Always wanted to make my teacher shit her pants. Param says,
That's a horrible thing to say.
Hold on, let me try and goblinize it a little bit more.
That's a horrible thing to say.
Taco responds, You didn't know Mrs. Siegel. Lady had rage issues. The whole class was looking for the brown note. I catch a snicker on Leroy's face and turn to Sajana. What do you got? The gargoyle says,
I can't kill him, but I think I can keep them from attacking us with the dead can dance.
Taco asks, Do you only play during Halloween or something? Must be another seasonal reward, I say. Oh, no. Must be another seasonal reward. I say, Show me. Sajana shows me the spell in his VT.
The dead can dance. Rank 4. Cost 5,000 mana. Duration 1 performance. Extendable. Requirements: Bardic Mage 1 per rank, or Necromancy 1 per rank. Performance 12. Charisma plus performance, vocal or any instrument. Bardic. Charisma plus occult. Necromancy. Effect: Upon successful cast, all dead and undead characters within a 20-foot radius must cease all other actions and dance. Undead players may resist these effects by spending 100 mana per second. Players that resist this spell for 30 consecutive seconds may not be affected by the dead can dance again for 30 minutes. A dancer is attacked, it will enter a horrifying rage and pummel the attacker until it is destroyed. If the attacker dies, the dead will resume dancing, and the aggressor will join them. Bardic casters may extend the duration of the spell to subsequent songs by succeeding in an additional Charisma plus performance roll, so long as they do not stop singing or playing. The radius of this spell is extended by 10 feet per additional musician that contributes to the song, so long as the player succeeds a Charisma plus performance check. That might work, I say. Let's give it a go. Sajana, seeming glad that the adventure has wandered into his realm of expertise, says, Does anyone besides Melpomene have any music related to abilities?
Frobod says,
Mel and I both have headgear that gives us bonus points to dancing.
Sajana says,
That won't help. It's got to be for playing.
Everyone else just shakes their heads.
Okay, I can buff you.
The gargoyle opens his mouth and unleashes a long, powerful note, like an opera singer standing before a captive audience. He holds it for 1, 2, 3, 7, 10 seconds. I blink in surprise. That man's got lungs. Then, as if attached to an invisible string, a new light appears over the pit of zombies. It's a great mirrored globe that slowly rotates in place and scatters bubbles of multicolored light throughout the environment. It's like being in a club or a high school dance. Plus zombies. A new buff appears in the corner of my user interface.
Party on. Performance +1. Charisma +1. Seduction +1. Taco laughs. You have the most useless spells. As he says this, a few of the groaning zombies startle like infants and look up in exploration of the new light. One guy in particular, bald-headed, missing a forearm, and wearing a blood-soaked jerkin, wears a comical expression of wide-eyed bewilderment. As bewildered as a dead guy can look with a missing jaw, anyway. Give him a chance, I say. Sajana says, the bonus performance should be enough for you to hold a beat. He shuffles through his inventory to retrieve a mobile drum, which he loans to Leroy, and a couple of tambourines, which are given to Param and Taco. He looks to Frobod and says, sorry, those are all the loners I've got. Oh my god, that's terrible. I say, I've got maracas, as I put away Bite and pull them out along with my Elebas, an elemental-powered electric bass from Free World, out of my inventory. As I hand them to Frobod, he asks, do I even want to know why you have these? Cinco de Mayo? I ask with a hopeful tone in my voice. Actually, I bought one of pretty much every instrument I could afford while playing my music character. I look to Sajana, who's now armed with a lute, and ask, so now what? He says, I'll bet none of you spent money on the good songs. Leroy says, that's a negative. For musical characters, to get autoplay songs from modern artists like Jarl Bang and Pinhead Toby versus the Nightmare, you have to pay real money, the same as you would pay for the sheet music. Otherwise, you're stuck using either your personal music ability or choosing a track from the library of 30 to 40-year-old plus pops. Otherwise, you're stuck using either your personal music ability or choosing a track from the library of 30 to 40-year-old plus pop music that's included for free. If your real-world playing skills outstrip your in-game ability, the game engine will fuck up your performance so you sound like an amateur. F up. Okay, Sajana says, and plays a few chords on his lute. Sajana requests your helping in casting The Dead Can Dance by playing bass. Do you accept? Yes or no? I choose yes, and catch the rest of the party doing the same. Library title. Murder on the Dance Floor. Murder on the Dance Floor. Artist, Sophie Ellis Baxter. Copyright 2001, Polydor Limited, UK. Excuse me. UK. Without my having to think on it, my hands move over the fretboard of the bass and pluck the strings. Frobod's maracas crash in time, along with Leroy's thumping of the drum and the rattle of tambourines. I can't believe we're doing this. Sajana successfully casts The Dead Can Dance. Duration, performance. He begins by singing the title of the song. Is this a real song? Murder on the Dance Floor?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I don't know how it goes. Let's see.
Improvise, it's okay.
Murder on the Dance Floor, which, as it turns out, is a catchy tune that matches the disco ball atmosphere. Taco says, this is fucking weird, as he shakes his tambourine to the beat. Param says,
I feel like I'm possessed,
as she hits the same notes. To my surprise, all of the undead in our vicinity have ceased their moaning. Without saying anything, I suppose he can't since he's singing, Sajana begins going down the ladder. His shadow stalker follows, leaping over the edge like a giant cat. He better not kill the groove, or we'll all be dead. Standing close to the edge of the drop, I now see zombies bobbing their heads in time with the beat. Craziest dungeon ever. Taco goes down next, followed by Leroy, Param, and now I bring up the rear. It's a lot eerier being on the ground, plucking at my base, surrounded by zombies and wights that are mostly taller than I am. A dot of light hits one right in the face, and I see an eyeball hanging onto its cheek. It claps, spins, and dances off the opposite direction. Using party chat, I say, keep heading toward the river. See if there's a way to cross. An unspoken effect of the spell also seems to be that the dead make room for musicians as we pass through them. They part before us like Moses and the Red Sea. It's strange to see the dead moving about in different dances to the same song. A few of the new ones smell of rot and death, but most of the dried-out husks and skeletal remains are thankfully absent of scent. Most dancers are garbed in worn or decomposing adventuring gear. We just passed a group of about 20 shambling in a synchronized line dance. Meanwhile, up ahead at 2 o'clock, I see a dead man and dead woman in travel leathers, spinning about in a style that's pure tango. Throw in a bunch of 70s struts and pointing from our left, and the whole unliving throng is a soup of boogie chaos. Crepit limbs and emaciated hips often make gut-turning grinding noise sounds as they are pressed into fluid motion so alien to their deceased state of being. Frobod calls back, "Bridge up ahead!" in between shakes of his maracas. Good. I'm just waiting for the spell to snap like a rubber band and have us all turned into bloody smears under pulp on the cave floor. Can't stop playing. I look to Taco, shaking his tambourine. You better not kill the groove. I want to run for safety as I set foot on the bridge, but maintain a steady pace. Coast looks clear up ahead, but the water's choppy underneath. I don't want to even think about what might be lurking in there. I doubt we'd be so lucky as to see little blind fish. The Freehaven style would be to include giant piranhas or 10-foot-long leeches that are as big around as my thigh. Okay, that's the end of the request.
Yes, thank you.
That's a fun little scene as well. I love bards, and then the dancing dead. It's like a thriller. It's like the thriller scene. So yeah, again, thank you, June, for requesting.
Yes, thank you,
and reminding me that that we had missed that little bit. I'm glad that we got it done.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Leroy Jenkins, duh. Let's see. On to our last request, which will be, I think I accidentally lost it. Hold on a second. Here it is, Sicora Online. Okay, unfortunately, the author of this book could not join us today, but I'm going to screen share one more time just to show it to you. I said screen share. Why is it not doing it? There. Why is it all the way over here? Okay. Oh, and it disappeared completely. Wonderful. Try again. Okay, well, I'm not going to screen share with you guys. Fuck you, I guess. Because the browser doesn't want to work properly. But you're going to have to take my word for it. Sicora Online is a thing. It's a novel by S.W. Clarke. The link to the book is down below in the description. You will find it there. And yeah, here it is. Since she's not here, I will read the, excuse me, jeez. Why does that burp taste like beer? I don't drink beer. Okay, I'll read the synopsis before I get started. Sicora Online, The Sorting, a GameLit adventure. First, they brought in the dupe. Then, she disappeared. 1 year ago, Vita Powell's sister, a clone designed for combat, was selected for the first trial of Sicora Online. At some point, Veda's sister was swapped out, and the person who came back wasn't Prairie. Such is a clone's life. They live and die quietly, and they are easily replaced. No one noticed, except Veda. 6 months later, the note arrived in Braille. Just one word. Mayday. Help. Veda knew her real sister was still alive. 18-year-old Veda isn't a gamer, and as a blind clone, she definitely doesn't have Prairie's physical prowess. She manages a small-time fast food AI, servicing kiosks in a world without color. But she doesn't have a choice. She has to survive long enough inside the ever-shifting world of Sicora to find Prairie. And that means Veda's got to toughen up. Okay, so Veda is looking for Prairie. And she's blind? Is she blind or is Prairie blind? I'm confused, guys, but I'm gonna say Veda's blind. All right, so let's see. Sicora. Here it is. Here's the PDF. Open that shit. Yeah. Okay, so we have some descriptions of some characters. First, let me drink some coffee. Let me drink some water. All right. The Ringer? What? Is that what the name? The Sorting... The Ringer. Is that the name of her other book? Oh, it is The Ringer. Huh. Okay, so I'm actually going to be reading from the prequel-y thing, Book 0 here, which came out February 9th. What? Okay, on his first night as a beta tester for Sicora Online, 21-year-old Galen Cole meets the clone, Prairie Ringer Powell. He isn't sure what to make of Prairie. She's engineered for violence, a maestro with a bow, and a real wild card, but they need each other. Galen and Prairie are two of the first batch of testers for the game that has a tendency to stomp its players. Fresh from debugging, Sicora Online is an ever-shifting world whose AI has been programmed to alter its level based on the personalities inside it. But Sicora needs to feed before she can blossom into an MMORPG. She must learn human behavior, motivations, and reactions to setback. Enter the level crawl. 10 days, 10 unpredictable worlds. If Galen survives, he'll be granted his heart's desire, a lifetime of free access to Sicora Online. But first, he has to survive. The Ringer is a prequel novella to the Sicora Online series. If you love strong females, gritty worlds, and characters who are put through the ringer, then you'll love these books. Okay. So that's what I'm actually reading from, looks like. I need to clean my glasses. Let's go through these character descriptions. Primary characters. Galen Cole, 21-year-old POV character, plays a guardian, tank/paladin type in the game. He's a gamer, quiet and thoughtful with a low voice, okay? Virgil Roundtree, 30-something NPC, the sheriff of the small town of Susquehanna? I've seen that name before. I don't know how to pronounce it. Susquehanna, I think. Where'd it go? And a consummate, lawful good, Wild West cowboy type. Yes, he's got a gentle way about him, a quiet surety to his speech. Think Matthew McConaughey. Fun. Prairie Powell, the Ringer. She's the 18-year-old clone and the focus of Galen's attentions. She's engineered for combat, and as such, she's confident, outspoken, a smartass with an alto. I think Emma Stone. Okay. Minor characters. Old man on the porch. 80-something NPC, over it all. Has spent a lot of time with a pipe in his mouth on saloon porches. Cash. 20-something gambling NPC in the saloon. Comically bad with his pistol. His voice goes high when he's upset. Dude, this is gonna be fun. All right, excerpts from chapters 7 and 8. Galen climbed to the top of a ridge, the fingernail moon offering a sharded light over a vast world. More plains, more dust, and not a single mote of water. He rested on the ridge a time, knees pulled up. He had already tried hacking at a tall cactus with the sword, but it was dry as paper on the inside, and he wasn't sure where to dig for water. He left the cactus with one branch hanging like a cleft arm. After some hours, his health began to tick down. He was at 135 out of 150, and he had a follower. One of the coyotes trotted at a few miles distance, and where there was one, there were more. In a few hours, the sun would rise, and then he would be sorrier than he already was. Ahead, a creature he had mistaken for gnarled brush raised its long neck, stood staring at him on impossibly thin legs. After a moment, a nameplate appeared over its head. Young Gazelle, Level 1. He stopped mid-step, waited until the creature, still wary, walked and then bounded off to the west. Galen's interface flashed, notifying him that his perception skill had just risen to 2. Way to go, adventurer! Your keen eyes now let you gauge the level of people and creatures within 5 levels of your own. So he was just 1 level higher than a young gazelle. Best not to inform Prairie of that, if he ever found her. Galen followed the gazelle. He set into a light jog, eyes on the upturned tail. He was losing the creature, and he couldn't run far before he lost all will, but it was far enough. The young gazelle led him to a flock who swept from the tiny pods like birds, their hooves pressing divots into the dry ground. He came to the pond. Its surface limbed. I'm gonna guess that she meant lined. Its surface lined with bits and detritus, like a worshipper. What? Oh, he came to the pond like a worshipper. He came to the pond, its surface lined with bits and detritus, like a worshipper. Galen rolled his sleeves to the elbows, dropped to his knees, plunged his head in. He drank and scrubbed the dirt from himself all at once, and the water was nectar. He lifted for air once, twice, went back for more until his stomach felt distended, and when he raised his head a final time, there was a man standing on the other side, watching. Galen stumbled onto his backside, slinging pond water from his hair. The man stood as still as the gazelle while his horse drank, one hand set into his belt and the other holding a lit cigarette to his lips. A black jacket hung on his ankles, floated over. A black jacket hung to his ankles, floated over fine leather pants and a starched shirt, the collar lined in red. A shock of blonde hair graced his head. Galen squinted until his unhelpful nameplate appeared. Unknown NPC. Level unknown. Howdy, he said, lowering the cigarette. The horse, a chestnut, shook its head, and the bit of its bridle jingled on the leather, droplets of water flung to Galen on the other side. Don't mean to interrupt a man at his business. Galen got to his feet, set his hat on his wet head. Well, I'm done, he said. Where's the nearest town? The blonde took a long drag from his cigarette, evaluating Galen. After a time, he pointed with his smoking fingers off to the west, where a high ridge rose. If you're local to here, you'd know how old Susquehanna's about If you're local to here, you'd know old Susquehanna's about a 5-minute walk that way over the hill. But I reckon you aren't. Local, that is. Pegged. Thanks, Galen said, and he started off to the west. The horse raised its head, stamped one white-socked hoof. Easy, girl, the man said. She don't particularly like strangers. How about we introduce ourselves? Galen stopped, half-turned. They still had most of the pond between them. I'm Galen Cole, he said. Well, Galen Cole, the man said, setting aside one flap of his jacket to reveal a pronged piece of metal over his left breast. I'm Virgil Roundtree, the sheriff of Susquehanna.
but most just call me Roundtree. Now, I don't suppose you've set eyes on a fellow with a real dark, curly hair who holds one hand to his chest on account he's missing 3 fingers, have you?" Galen shook his head. "That's a real shame," Roundtree said, and the man dropped his cigarette, stubbed it with the toe of his boot. "Reckon I ought to get a move on, then." He set one hand on the pommel of the saddle and his foot in the boot, swung up. "Be good in my town, Galen Cole." Galen watched him leave south, swaying easy on the horse, and he felt a tug in his chest. Virgil Roundtree was both a stranger and awful familiar. Galen came into Susquehanna with the sunrise. Eyes followed. A stagecoach driver idling at the post office, a woman leaving the hat shop, 2 old men in rocking chairs on the porch of the saloon. Even the dog, Old Mutt, level 1, raised his head from beneath the porch. Virgil Roundtree had called Susquehanna a town. It was more a single road whose grooves had been made permanent by the addition of a few buildings. In fact, Galen could see the beginning and end of Susquehanna before he'd even entered the town, and he knew where the boundary lay on account of the single dead tree from which a noose hung, a decaying, crow-pecked body still clinging to the rope. "Thieves will pay," the plank on his chest read. And Galen Cole, who had been in the world for all of about 5 hours, was grateful for such a fact. He hadn't had a chance to do good or bad. But the eyes on him were curious. He wished he had a mirror, but all he got was a pipe lifted from between the lips of one of the old men on the saloon porch.
"You look like you've seen better days, son,"
Full of gravel.
"You look like you've seen better days, son,"
he announced, his voice full of gravel.
There's a boy who needs him one of Earl's special drafts,"
the other said, and the 2 laughed. One of the men pressed a hand into his pocket, pulled something from it, his hand going out to Galen as he passed.
"Take this, poor bastard. Take it and buy yourself a wash in the tub, or at least a drink to forget the smell."
Galen received a single coin in his palm. It was copper and donut-shaped, the center clipped out. Around the edge was engraved a language he couldn't read. Most of the letters rubbed flat with use and age. "Thanks," Galen said, pulling at the brim of his hat. He pressed through the bat wings into half-light and sawdust, the scent of fresh-poured liquor and puke. He came into a real scene. Every table abandoned except for one at the saloon's center. A woman and a half-dozen men sat or stood around the single table of 5 players with cards held tight to their chests. They had either been at it all night and started when the sun came up. Or started when the sun came up, though Galen didn't expect that these were the early rising type. Behind the bar, a single put-upon man with a bald dome and two tufts at the sides of his head polished a glass. On Galen's entry, every face except the woman's turned to him. One of the men, unknown NPC level 2, folded his arms, his jaw working until he delivered a brown patch of saliva onto the floor. Is this cash then? "Seems we've got another shown up," he said. That was the weirdest accent I think I've ever done. And the game was forced to halt by their attention. The woman laid her hand to her chest and took her time turning in her seat, one arm set over the wooden back. Her hair was pulled into a bun, and she wore a long jacket and leather breeches with tall boots, but it was the same pair of knowing blue eyes he'd grown used to. She crossed her legs, surveying him beneath her nameplate. Prairie Powell, level 2. Let me see what she said about her one more time. Confident, outspoken.
Galen Cole, you're just in time.
She turned back in her chair. Raise, she said, pressing a small stack of coins right to the center of the table. One of the men groaned, clapped the shoulder of a player who sat opposite. She's taking you, Cash. The man who'd been hit shrugged the other way. Ain't being taken by no woman. I raise, and he pressed his own coins forward. Let's see about that, the other said. Prairie spread her hand of 5 cards across the table. The groans that went up about shook the walls of the saloon. Cheat. Thief. Every insult lobbed at once, and before Galen knew what was what, the chairs had been pushed back from the table and 3 guns and 2 small crossbows unholstered. All of them but the crossbows were aimed at Prairie. That was how Galen came to regret that he'd found the right place. The doors of the saloon flew wide as she yanked him onto the porch. Beside them, the old men sat agog, still rocking, as Prairie leapt off the porch and Galen stumbled down the steps. By the time he'd turned around, she was unwinding a bridle from the hobbling pole.
Take the roan, Cole,
she called. And the house started as she stuck one foot in the stirrup. She bounced along as it backed up and, after a few tries, swung herself into the saddle. You know how to ride? He said. She pulled the horse around, its head jerking to her unfamiliar seat and commands.
I will,
Prairie said, though the white mare she'd taken was raising dust with her stamping hooves. The saloon doors slammed, and the first of the card players limped out with an arrow in his thigh. Galen started toward the roan. Don't you dare! The man called, lifting his gun. Cash! Nope. This isn't Cash. Don't you dare! The man called, lifting his gun. Cash! He's thieving my trigger! Galen had no cover. He jerked his arm around, and the shield slotted open before him into the white and sharp kite. He staked it into the ground and crouched behind, his eyes flicking to the shield ability in his interface. His mana dropped by 25%, and white light burst from the shield, enveloping Galen as the first bullet hit the metal with such force he thought his arm might have fractured. But it rang off, and the second one did too. 1, 2. He breathed fast. A third and fourth bullet hit the metal, but the shield held. 3, 4. Before the fifth bullet hit, a cry went up. Galen raised his head high enough to peer over, found twin arrows lodged at the center of his attacker's chest. Trigger's owner slumped silent next to the two old men on the porch. From atop her nervous mare, Prairie let out a whoop.
Woo! Get your ass up, Cole!
Knew they was bad, the man with the pipe said. Didn't I say so? 5. The light snuffed from Galen's shield. He rose, jerked his arm up. The metal spiraled back into itself. When he came to the hobbing pole, his shaking, dehydrated hands fumbled with the reins. He'd never ridden a horse, didn't want to ride a horse, but there he was. Galen pulled the bridle free and struggled to set his foot in the stirrup. Trigger had pushed himself back from the watering trough, threw his head left and right. 2 of the other men had just gotten onto the porch, and with all his strength, Galen took hold of the pommel and pulled himself half onto the horse. Prairie spun her mare, took off down the road. Trigger followed, first at a trot and then at a canter, so that Galen, his right leg barely over the horse's flank, bounced and then just clung to the mane and the pommel as the shots rang out behind them. They were followed. Prairie spurred the mare to a gallop once they had cleared Susquehanna, and Galen,
who by now had gained the riding skill. "Hey, cowboy, looks like you managed to get your first ride on the pony at the birthday party." Still clung low to Trigger, his face whipped by the horse's mane. They rode into a wide and blown-out plain, helixes of sand risen at either side. In their wake, calls sang out, foul names spat. When he glanced back, he spied 4 horses in the churned dust, the old mutt running alongside. Galen's hat flew off, floated into the haze. A bullet rang past his ear and into the endless plain, and he would have shouted to Prairie that they needed a plan or else they were well and he would have shouted to Prairie that they needed a plan or else they were well and thoroughly fucked. But even if she could have heard him, he didn't dare focus on anything but his tight hold on the horse. Ahead of them, a black line appeared in the far distance. It was on a perpendicular course, growing and stretching to meet them. What the hell was it? Galen lifted his head, but he couldn't make out much in the dust beyond Prairie's mare. "Hey!" he shouted. Her bun had slipped out, and her hair fluttered behind. She didn't hear him. They were on a direct course with whatever it was, and as they neared, Galen started to make out the vicious details. Circular wheels, a curl of smoke issuing from the front. "Pow!" he called. Another shot sounded, and her face swept around to Galen. She wore a knowing look. He shook his head, to which she nodded.
"No!"
she called.
"We'll die!"
In the game, of course. But if it worked, if they could hop one of the cars, the whole thing would be downright cinematic. Galen had to make choices, quick choices. The train's horn sounded a shrill call in the desert. It said, "Grab your horse's reins, jerk the head aside, and get yourself to safety." But he didn't. He drove his heels into Trigger's sides, and the horse careened up to where Prairie's mare ran with a neck stretched almost horizontal, ears swept back. Prairie hung so low to the horse she seemed almost one with it. When she glanced over, she shouted something that was lost beneath the near-constant horn. He could make out the details of the train now. The dizzying weights, the metal-horned undercarriage, the window out with which a conductor waved a terrified arm. The coal residue on that terrified arm. Galen pressed on. They might make it, but only just, and some tail hair might be clipped off in the process. That was when the mare went down. It happened fast. Prairie was beside him, and then she wasn't, and Galen's horse leaned back so hard he was nearly thrown off as Trigger slowed, and they skidded toward the tracks. They neared the train, and the train needed them, and he jerked the horse's head left as it came roaring by. Galen's hair swept back as the wind and heat washed over, the conductor yelling something out the window while the train shot by, car after car after car throttling down the track so loud he was deafened. He looked back. They'd kicked up so much dust he couldn't see Prairie or the mare. Between his legs, Trigger breathed hard and ragged. Galen found the reins, directed the horse away from the tracks and back the way they'd come. He wasn't the first to find her. He stepped through the cloud of dust and into a circle around the mare and Prairie. Both of them were on the ground. The mare on her side and Prairie on hers, one leg pinned under the horse's ribcage. The mare's left long leg was bent at a sickening angle below the second joint, and she bled from a hole in her flank. He didn't hear any of what happened next, but he did see it. First the dying horse, and then Prairie, who struggled on the ground. The men who trotted around, 2 of them with guns pointed at Prairie, and 2 of them with the barrels directed at Galen. All of this he saw, but not the butt end of the gun that struck his skull. He only knew the world jerked with a thud, and he was in blackness when he fell to the ground. In his interface, his health dropped to 75 out of 150. The mutt's teeth were on his arm, and then a thin strand of sound made its way in.
He's down! Sit, Bill, sit! For God's sake, he's down! All right, and that's it. Yeah, weird. What's up, Charles? Good to see you, but I'm done now. What the fuck, dude? Why didn't you come earlier? All right, so that is our show for today. Thank you guys so much for coming to hang out and for voting on our poll. I kind of had fun with that one that we just read, Sicora Online. It's a little hard to understand though. Like the writing style is interesting. I like it, but at the same time, it's just a little too nebulous, I guess. Like things aren't lined up to where I'm fully comprehending what's going on. But yeah, it's available on Kindle, so go check it out. That particular one that I was reading was the prequel book, but you'll still be able to find it if you just follow the link on the description below. So yeah, if you liked any of those, go check them out. If you liked this show and you've never been here before and you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, please, and click the bell if you want to get notifications when we go live or when we add a new live event. Please check out all of the Facebook groups that are in the description below as well. The LitRPG forum, the Sound Booth Theater Live Facebook group, and the GameLit Society. And also, if you want to come hang out with me some more after this show, give me about a half hour to an hour to get some food in me, and then I will be narrating Mr. Dave Wilmarth's Greystone Chronicles 2, The Dire Lands. Let's see. I'm about halfway into chapter 7 right now, about 30% into the book. I plan to do another at least 10% tonight. So I'll be there for a while. So the Discord link is in the description below as well. It's the very bottom. It's the very last thing. So yeah, you can come listen to me narrate there. And I think that's all. We have another Sound Booth Theater Live happening sometime this week for Cherry Blossom Girls 3. I'm thinking that'll be Thursday. I'd like it to be Thursday. Annie will be back in town, so we'll be teaming up in here. And then hopefully Lori and Justin will be able to make it. But wait, maybe not. You know, it'd be cool is if Lori, she actually might be in Kansas City Thursday night. We might have to wait till Friday night to do it, actually. We'll see. We'll all be in the same place, except for Justin, who's a foreigner. He's from Canada, the exotic land of Canada. So he's the only one who's not going to be with us. But yeah, so we'll have that coming up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to know for sure when it's coming up. And yeah, join our Facebook group. There's tons of ways to hang out with us, guys. And that will be the show for tonight. So thank you again so much. And yeah, I will see you in Discord.